1,100 businesses, very different needs and a very diversified membership. We have to make sure that we're able to address the needs of our small businesses. About 71% of our membership has 15 employees or less. However, about 30% of our overall membership revenue comes from those companies that have more than 15 employees. So the balance is always a challenge for our organization. Finally, partnerships are absolutely critical for us in order for us to be successful. We partner with our local municipalities, we partner with our local school districts, our local business community, our nonprofit sector, all the way up to our regional and statewide partners. We have many of those as well. So partnerships will continue to thrive, and we'll continue to focus on building even stronger partnerships. So my final comment to you is one of encouragement and a little bit of a plea to increase your engagement one way or the other with our organization. Whether that be through financial investment is one piece, but just your time and your talent with limited resources. We know we've got a lot of expertise in this region that could really help our organization catapult itself even further forward. And the final thing is just continue to help us increase the awareness of the Chamber and the work that we're doing, not because we want to give ourselves a pat on the back, but because we believe we're providing an essential service to the community and want to continue to do so. Finally, I have a little comment in your outlook, in your brochure on your places. It talks about the economic or the legislative dialogue breakfast. You'll see an advertisement for that. That's where we present our legislative agenda for the year. Advocacy is still a very critical role in what we do. That breakfast, because of two conflicts with two of our legislators, both of them being the speakers, we had to push it a week later. So it'll be the following Monday, the 23rd. So not the 16th, just for anybody that's looking to join us. So that concludes my comments. I'll introduce Larry Burkhardt. We're very, very lucky to have Larry join us about almost 3 years ago to join the team and lead the economic development efforts for this region. Larry brings to us about 20, now I could say probably 25 years of economic development experience from mainly California and Colorado. Great expertise, and we're very lucky to have him. Larry Burkhardt.
Thank you, Shannon, and good morning, everyone. I want to begin my remarks by, again, emphasizing the fact that events like these don't just happen. And I want to specifically thank two of our staff for the work that they did to support this effort. Susan Vanden Heuvel, who is in charge of all of our events at the Chamber, did a masterful job, as she always does, of putting together the logistics around this event. And Beth Pritzel, who is our Vice President of Research and Technology, helped me a great deal with putting together the material for the presentation today. So we're going to start real quickly with just a couple of remarks about the regional partnership and where it's going. Our goal, our mission, is to enhance the quality of life for local residents, raise the average wage, and see a better quality of life in our area. And the way we do that is by supporting the retention and attraction of primary jobs. Now, Shannon gave you the definition of a primary job, but you can't hear it often enough. A primary job is not dependent on size, although most of our large employers here in the area are primary employers. We define it as a company that derives the majority of its revenue by selling a product or a service outside the region. And it's the dollars that result from the sales of those activities that come back in the form of new money into the local economy. And it's really all that supports most of us here in the room, retail, service, and professional sectors. Without our primary employers, we don't have much of an economy. And when you get right down to it, we don't have much of a community. So it's very critical for us to devote our time and attention towards fostering and nurturing primary employment. A single individual can be a primary employer. If they're sitting at a computer, for example, and writing software for a company in Indonesia, they're a primary employer. So our goal as this organization was put together was to support the creation of 1,200 new primary jobs in our first 5 years. We went to the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh and had them run an economic impact analysis of that goal. And they came back to us and said, if you're successful with this, you will generate, or that result will generate $75 million in new annual payroll to your communities. It will generate over $4 million annually in new property taxes to support municipal services. And it will generate about $140 million overall annual economic impact. So where are we in this regard? Over the past 3 years, the regional partnership has worked with 7 of our existing primary employers who have expanded, and 2 new companies that are new to the area, new attractions. And together, those companies have announced the creation of 507 new primary jobs in our region. Now, we're not going to take credit for that. To be honest with you, we have a very small staff. We have very limited resources. We can't do what we do without the work of our partners. And Shannon mentioned some of those partners. Our municipalities, our regional planning district, New North, our education, business, nonprofit sectors in general. Those are the ones that work together with us, and it's only as we do this work together that we see the success. But we give the final credit to the private sector who creates these jobs. None of us create a job at all. It's only the private sector that does that. They put their risk dollars to work and create new jobs for us. So that's very quickly a summary of where we are with our economic development efforts. I want to now shift gears into the business survey results. And I want to welcome you to this morning's presentation of Fun with Charts and Graphs. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a tour, a quick tour of the Fox Cities economy. We're going to hit some high points. We're going to see a lot of positives. I'm going to look at a couple of red flags as well. So I'm new to Wisconsin, but I've learned that the vehicle of choice for most tours in Wisconsin has to involve a boat. So we're going to take a tour on a boat. I'm going to be your tour guide. So you're all in your places. I want you to settle in, and we're going to shove off. Now, as we've talked about, each year the Chamber surveys over 200 local businesses for the results of this survey. Incredibly, this is the 21st year that this survey's been on. And just to give you an idea of who's involved, we make a very concerted effort to diversify the results by working with a variety of sectors. Manufacturers, service companies, trade organizations, finance, insurance, and real estate. That's okay. Fire wings. Other involves construction, government, and a few other sectors. So you can see there's a good split among the companies who responded to this survey this year. And the companies that are involved in the responses employ in aggregate over 33,000 people. So it's a pretty big swath of our community. Now, it would be nice if we were able to turn our economy around as easily as this. It's not, obviously. But I think what I'd like to point out to you is that that last panel there is fairly representative of what we're seeing in our community now, and I'm going to show you some things that are going to back that up. Actually, our local employers probably are happier than a mouse in a cheese factory this year because of the results that they saw over the past year. The percentage of companies who responded that their sales had grown and those that reported their profits had grown over the prior year is the largest percentage that we've seen in this business survey since 2006. Very, very significant progress that we're making in the economy. These are actions, these are not projections. So each of those companies said, yeah, my profits, my sales increased last year. Employment increased over the prior year. Nothing dramatic in that regard, but we are seeing the trend line move in the correct direction. Companies, we ask them, are you going to be expanding over the next year? And what we see in that regard is a little bit of an increase from 2014 to where 20% of the respondents said, yes, we are going to plan an expansion this year. What's encouraging to me in that aggregate is the fact that 29% of our surveyed manufacturers said, yes, we're going to expand. Now, why is that important? Well, manufacturing is the bread and butter of this community. Did you know that we have 22% of our local workforce involved in manufacturing? That compares with 9% nationwide. So we have 2.5 times the manufacturing activity here that you'll find in a typical community across the country. Why is that important? Well, manufacturing pays a wage that is 33% higher than the average wage across the economy. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the average wage for manufacturing paid in the Fox Cities region is $57,000 and change. That's a good family supporting job. So we're critically concerned about the health of our manufacturing sector in this community. We always ask our survey respondents to rate their perception of both the national and the local economy. And as you can see, the trend line here, if you look at the excellent and good line, took quite a jump this year to where now, I believe the slide cuts off a little bit, but over 40% of those companies surveyed responded that they rated the national economic vitality as excellent or good. Now let's take a look at the local economy and what they thought of it. And you can see even a higher percentage of respondents rated the local economy as being excellent or good. Now we could speculate about this, but I gotta believe that that reflects, at least in part, the fact that there is a perception that we have more control at the local level than what we do at the national economy. But the indication is such that this is the highest ranking for both the national and the local economy that we've seen in this business survey since 2007. So again, very good indication. Here's another way of looking at it. We've got a line chart that shows from year to year how our survey respondents have answered that particular question. And you can see the green line being the local economy is always ranked a little bit ahead, but the two lines in general parallel themselves pretty significant. But again, the trend line is moving in a very solid, good direction there. Now, we know that we have issues. We talked about a couple of red flags that we can see within our economy. And before I get myself in a lot of trouble with anybody here who happens to be involved with one of our political parties, that's not a donkey. That's a racehorse. And for those of you who may be a little distant from one of the screens, on that horse is, you know what? It says workforce. And Uncle Sam is representing the economy. And that's really a very good graphic because it describes a lot of the situation that we have here in the valley, but we also have across this nation. Are you aware that 78 million baby boomers are set to retire over the next 10 years? Couple that with the fact that our national birth rate has dropped by 50% in the last 50 years. We're going to have a crunch like you've never seen before. Some authors will say that in the next few years, we're going to have winning communities, we're going to have losing communities. To this point in time, those 5,000 economic development organizations that Shannon referenced represent communities that all had some opportunity for success over a period of time. That's not likely going to be the case anymore. It's going to be those communities who step forward and devote themselves to a specific direction and devote their resources to support it and become very aggressive about the agenda of job creation. Those are going to be our winning communities. We're going to have communities that aren't going to win. Certainly, we in the Fox Cities want to position ourselves to be involved with that. And this is one of our biggest issues, workforce. So let's take a look at the respondents this year. We asked the question, how would you rank the availability of quality workers? When we look at all the economic sectors, we find this. We find that that trend line is declining at a pretty steep rate. On the other hand, if we look at the below and poor, in other words, companies who said, I rank the availability of qualified workers as being either poor or below average, that trend line is going in the wrong direction as well. Now, let's take a look at the manufacturing sector in particular. You look at the manufacturer's response to this question, and we can see a significant drop in the last year. Even more of a steep incline. And again, look at this. Look at where it went from one year to the next in terms of the manufacturers who said, this is, my availability of talented workers is way below average. This is very much a concern. This is where our community needs to mobilize in so many ways, from the state level, to the regional level, to the local level, to address this worker shortage and skills gap. So let's put those two slides back to back, and you can see on the left-hand side all of the sectors, and on the right-hand the manufacturers. You can see the difference in inclines. And again, given the importance of the manufacturing sector to our community, this is not what we want to see. So we also ask our respondents to rate the Fox cities as a place to do business and as a place to live. So let's look at those who responded to that first question. Ranking the Fox cities as a place to do business as compared to similar sized communities. We see a decline there. In fact, we see a 3-year